My girlfriend said, "You care more about your patients than you'll ever care about me." I replied, "You're absolutely right." Then I discovered she'd been betting on that truth for 18 months. This morning, she's frantically calling everyone we know, trying to explain why she's suddenly unemployed and facing federal charges. I'm Dr. Michael Harrison, 34, and I've spent the last 8 years building something most people only dream about. Chief of Cardiovascular Surgery at Presbyterian Medical Center, I oversee a team of 12 surgeons and generate roughly $40 million annually for the hospital. When I make a decision in that OR, it's final. When I recommend a procedure, insurance companies approve it without question. When I speak at medical conferences, people take notes. My personal life followed a similar pattern of careful construction. Sarah Mitchell came into my world 3 years ago as the new director of medical operations, intelligent, ambitious, with an MBA from Northwestern and a track record of streamlining hospital systems. She was beautiful in that polished, professional way that photograph well at medical galas. More importantly, she understood my world, or so I thought. Our relationship made sense on paper. She managed the business side while I focused on surgery. She handled our social calendar, our investments, even coordinated with my financial advisor on portfolio management. I gave her access to nearly everything: joint accounts, power of attorney for medical decisions, even made her the secondary contact on my malpractice insurance. Why wouldn't I? She was competent, trustworthy, and frankly, I needed someone who could handle the details while I focused on keeping people alive. The arrangement worked beautifully for 3 years. She moved into my downtown condo, took over managing our household expenses, and became my plus one at every professional event. My colleagues respected her, my parents liked her, and she seemed genuinely proud of what I'd accomplished. I should have paid more attention to that last part. Last September, my own body betrayed me. Routine physical revealed an ascending aortic aneurysm, essentially a ticking time bomb in my chest that required immediate surgical repair. The irony wasn't lost on me. The surgeon needed surgery. The procedure itself was straightforward, but recovery would be extensive. 12 weeks minimum before I could return to operating, during which I'd need to delegate everything. Sarah immediately stepped up, offering to coordinate with my partners, manage communications with the hospital administration, and handle all financial matters during my recovery. "You just focus on healing," she told me the night before surgery, kissing my forehead like I was one of her patients. "I've got everything else covered." I trusted her completely. The surgery went perfectly, but recovery was brutal. Between the pain medication and physical limitations, I found myself increasingly dependent on Sarah for basic functioning. She managed my prescription refills, coordinated with my surgical partners about case coverage, and handled all correspondence with the hospital's administration about my return timeline. She also began making decisions I'd normally handle myself, postponing elective procedures, restructuring my compensation agreement with the hospital, even refinancing our shared property investments to optimize cash flow during your recovery period. Each time I questioned something, she'd give me that patient smile. "Michael, you're still on serious pain medication. Let me handle the business side until you're thinking clearly again." And I let her, because she was right, I wasn't thinking clearly. The combination of opioid pain management and surgical trauma had left me foggy, dependent, and frankly grateful that someone competent was managing the details. It never occurred to me to question her motives. 2 months into recovery, I was finally clear-headed enough to review our financial statements. What I found didn't make sense. My primary checking account showed large transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. My investment portfolio had been restructured without my explicit authorization. Most concerning, my malpractice insurance had been modified to include Sarah as a secondary beneficiary. When I asked her about it, she had explanations for everything. "The transfers were to optimize our tax situation. Your accountant recommended it." The portfolio changes were defensive moves given the market volatility. The insurance modification was standard procedure for couples planning marriage. We discussed it vaguely but never made concrete plans. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what. So I did what I do when facing diagnostic uncertainty. I gathered more data. As a cardiovascular surgeon, I'd learned that the most dangerous problems are often the ones hiding in plain sight. a small irregularity in an EKG that everyone else dismisses, an unusual heart sound that seems innocent. The key is methodical investigation, following every thread until you find the source. I started with the financial transfers. Using my medical industry connections, I traced the recipient accounts. They led to a shell company called Mitchell Healthcare Consulting, registered in Delaware, with Sarah as the sole proprietor. The company had been active for 18 months, receiving regular transfers from my accounts totaling over $180,000. Next, I examined the investment portfolio changes. My financial advisor, when I called directly, seemed confused. Sarah told us you were considering early retirement and wanted to liquidate positions for maximum liquidity. She had power of attorney documentation. Early retirement. I was 34 and at the peak of my career. The insurance modification was even more troubling. The changes weren't just adding Sarah as a beneficiary, they restructured the policy to maximize payout in case of career-ending medical complications, and added provisions for permanent disability coverage. But the real smoking gun came when I started reviewing my patient scheduling system. As department chief, I had administrative access to the entire surgery schedule. What I found made my blood run cold. Sarah had been systematically canceling my most lucrative procedures, rescheduling them with other surgeons, and redirecting the associated fees through her consulting company. She wasn't just stealing money. She was dismantling my practice from the inside. That evening, I confronted her with printouts of everything I'd discovered. "Sarah, we need to talk about Mitchell Healthcare Consulting." Her face went pale, but her recovery was quick. "Michael, you're still not thinking clearly from the medications. Let me explain what's really happening here." But I was thinking clearly, clearer than I'd been in months. "You've transferred nearly $200,000 from my accounts to a shell company you control. You've restructured my investments without authorization. You've canceled hundreds of thousands in surgical fees and redirected them through your fake consulting firm." She tried the patronizing approach first. "Honey, you're not understanding the complexity of the financial arrangements. I've been protecting your interests while you recover." When I didn't back down, she shifted to victimization. "I can't believe you're accusing me of theft, after everything I've sacrificed to take care of you." Finally, she played her ace card, the one she'd been planning to use all along. "Fine, Michael, you want the truth. You're absolutely right. You care more about your patients than you'll ever care about me. You're emotionally unavailable, obsessed with work, and completely oblivious to what I need from a partner. I've been planning my exit strategy because this relationship has no future." There it was. The confession she thought would devastate me. Instead, I felt a strange sense of clarity. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly. "I do care more about my patients than I care about you." The look on her face was priceless confusion mixed with triumph, as if she'd expected me to beg for another chance. "And that's exactly why you're about to lose everything." I didn't argue with her. I didn't try to change her mind or defend my priorities. Instead, I gave her exactly what she'd asked for, my complete emotional unavailability. The next morning, while she was at work, I made a series of phone calls. First call, my attorney, David Walker, who specialized in healthcare fraud. "David, I need you to review some financial documents immediately. We may be looking at embezzlement, insurance fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty." Second call, my bank, immediately freezing all joint accounts and removing Sarah's access to any shared financial resources. Third call, the hospital's compliance office, reporting potential Stark law violations related to inappropriate fee arrangements and kickbacks. Fourth call, my malpractice insurance company, reporting potential fraud and immediately reversing all unauthorized policy modifications. By noon, Sarah had lost access to all shared resources, faced an internal investigation at the hospital, and had been placed on administrative leave pending review. She called me 17 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. When she finally came home, she found her belongings packed neatly in boxes by the door, along with a letter from my attorney outlining the evidence we'd compiled and demanding full restitution. "Michael, please," she began, but I cut her off. "You were right about everything," I said. "I am emotionally unavailable. I do prioritize my patients over personal relationships, and I am completely obsessed with my work." She nodded eagerly, thinking this was the beginning of reconciliation. "That's exactly why I'm exceptionally good at what I do, including investigating complex problems and implementing systematic solutions. Her face fell as she realized what I was saying. You wanted an exit strategy. I'm giving you one. The door is behind you. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah's carefully constructed scheme unraveled completely. The hospital investigation revealed extensive policy violations. Not only had she been redirecting surgical fees, but she'd been selling confidential patient scheduling information to competing medical practices, allowing them to poach high-value procedures. The Delaware Shell Company investigation uncovered a pattern of systematic theft going back 18 months, almost to the exact moment she'd moved in with me. She hadn't been planning her exit for a few weeks. She'd been planning it since the beginning. But the masterstroke came when investigators discovered her communications with a personal injury attorney, discussing how to maximize a potential malpractice claim if my surgical complications became permanent. She'd been positioning herself to benefit financially whether I recovered successfully or not. The federal charges came down 3 weeks later: mail fraud, wire fraud, healthcare fraud, and conspiracy. The total amount involved exceeded $400,000 when they included the redirected surgical fees and insurance fraud. She tried to contact me through mutual friends, then through my parents, even through former colleagues. The message was always the same. She'd made a mistake, she needed my help, couldn't we work something out privately? But I'd already moved on. 6 months later, I'm back to full surgical schedule and have never felt more focused. The experience taught me valuable lessons about trust, verification, and the importance of maintaining visibility into all aspects of my life, even the parts I'd rather delegate. Sarah pled guilty to federal fraud charges and received 2 years in federal prison, plus 5 years of supervised probation and full restitution. She's also been permanently barred from working in healthcare administration. The money was recovered, the practice stronger than ever, and my reputation actually enhanced by how professionally I handled the situation. But the most important lesson wasn't professional, it was personal. Sarah had been right about me. I do prioritize my patients over personal relationships. I am emotionally unavailable to people who prove themselves unworthy of access, and I am completely obsessed with work that saves lives and builds something meaningful. Those aren't flaws to be fixed. They're features to be celebrated. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. When someone tells you who you are, consider whether that's actually a strength they're trying to weaponize against you. The right person won't see your dedication to important work as a problem to be solved. They'll see it as a strength to be supported. These days, I'm more selective about who gets access to my world. The woman I'm seeing now is a fellow surgeon who understands that sometimes patients come first, not because I don't care about her, but because the ability to prioritize life or death decisions over personal convenience is exactly why she respects me. Sarah thought she was identifying my weakness. Instead, she helped me identify my greatest strength: the ability to make difficult decisions based on clear priorities without being swayed by emotional manipulation or social pressure. Some people see that as being cold or calculating. I see it as being a surgeon. Both personally and professionally, precision matters more than popularity. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst impulses, even when they're demanding that you do exactly that. Especially then.